Now, in an exclusive interview that we've got today, I will say it is a world first on TV, is the son of former Myanmar, but others will know it as Burma, leader Aung San Suu Kyi's son we've got with us.
With all the focus on Ukraine, what's been happening in Burma has not had the attention it might have had.
Democracy campaigner Aung San Suu Kyi has been imprisoned by the military dictatorship that has taken over Burma. And we're delighted to now say that we are joined in the studio by her son, Kim Aris. So, first of all, the things that your mum has been through, pretty much in some sort of imprisonment, it seems, for great parts of her life, and back there now in prison. How is she? What is happening? What sort of treatment has she got? You are a son. Are you allowed to see her?
No, I'm not allowed to see her. I haven't had any contact with her for the last 2.5 years. Any requests that I've made to the military have just come back blank. They don't answer me. And I don't really know where she's been held. There were rumours that the military were trying to circulate, saying that she had been moved to some form of house arrest. This was back in July. That is evidently not the case. And at the moment, as far as I'm aware, she has been unable to eat due to gum problems and teeth issues, potentially problems with wisdom tooth. And she's been vomiting and dizzy, and that's about as much as I know. The information I get is nothing more than what's available publicly, since I don't have any direct contact with her. And the lawyers aren't allowed to see her. Nobody is allowed to see her.
Is she still alive?
As far as I'm aware, I hope so. But until somebody can actually see her and verify that, I don't know.
So nobody's verified that? We don't know that?
No. The only spokespeople are military spokespeople or prison spokespeople, so we cannot rely on that information.
And as a son, this has been your relationship with your mum pretty much all your life, hasn't it? She's been in some form of prison because she stood up for democracy.
Ultimately, in the past, when she was first put under house arrest, I was actually with her. You know, I was 12 years old at the time, and I was allowed to stay with her for a period under a form of semi-house arrest. But over the years, occasionally they would allow me to visit her and stay with her and even send care packages and letters. But over the last 2.5 years, we've had none of that, and she's been denied access to her personal doctor and dentist. So I can't imagine what sort of state that she's in that prison, because the prisoners there are not treated well, and she does not accept preferential treatment.
Did you have to collect her Nobel Peace Prize for the work she'd done because she was still locked up?
She was still locked up at that time, yes. My brother and I, as well as my father, went to collect that.
Now, you're a British citizen, Kim. Has the UK government been doing enough to try and get you access to her with the regime in Burma?
I'm afraid to say there's very little the British government can do. They don't have a relationship with the regime which is workable. And whilst they are trying to get some communication from me through to my mother, it will be hard to do so. They put many blockages in place. The military don't make it easy.
Does anybody have a working relationship, though, with the military?
Well, I hear the Russians and the Chinese to some degree. I'm not sure who else.
And why is that?
Really. Well, it's business, isn't it?
And can I talk about, as well, the poverty? People might not quite understand what is going on in Myanmar, the poverty there, how many people do not have money, how the militia is treating them.
Well, there's 18 million people in need of urgent care in Burma at the moment. Proper humanitarian aid, which has been denied them because any aid that goes in through official channels ends up helping the military, not the people who need it.
Now, obviously your mum's hugely popular in Burma, but that has come at a price, spending much of her life in prison or under house arrest. I mean, what has it been like being her son, winning Nobel Peace Prizes, having her under house arrest, in prison, all the acclaim she's had around her? I mean, what is it like being her son?
It can be a bit of a roller coaster at times and quite tough, but I guess after however many years it is now, over 30 years, you get kind of used to it and just get on with your day.
But given that you are her son, are you going to carry on the family tradition and take on her mantle as a democracy campaigner in Burma, as she did from her dad?
Well, I'm not going to let Burma slide back further and further as it is now. I hope to help it move forwards like my mother has done. I don't really consider myself a democracy campaigner, but I shall certainly be making people aware of what's happening.
And how do you intend to carry on that mantle? How in that sense?
I shall be setting up some campaigns and a charity to help with humanitarian aid.
Now, I know you've brought in this picture. I think that's dear to you, so if you can explain it to us and lift it up for the cameras.
Well, this was when I was leaving Burma. This was just after my mother had been released from house arrest, and I went to see her, and I'd had this tattoo whilst I was waiting in Bangkok, which is the flag that you see there, the flag of the National League for Democracy. And I revealed it to the world when I arrived in Rangoon Airport, and to my mother, obviously.
And you're leading there, and maybe that was a vision there, that you will be taking on her message going forward. That is you leading her out. I have to say that she, such a distinguished character that she is, she did actually address both Houses of Parliament. Very few people get to do that because of her fight for democracy. So she was obviously invited to the mother of all democracies, our House of Parliament. Why do you think it is so important to her, and why should it be so important for the people of Burma and Myanmar? Democracy.
Democracy, well, I think it's the only chance of actually having proper human rights in Burma is when democracy is achieved. Because at the moment, there is no rule of law. There's no doing business with Burma because it's just completely corrupt. Yeah.
There was a period when she was in charge of Burma, between the military being in charge. She did receive criticism over her silence about the persecution of the Rohingya people. Do you think she regrets that from her time in office?
I'm not sure she really was silent. I think she was trying to work things through in a way that didn't result in a bloodbath like what's happening now. And there were very few options open to her at that time. Nobody else has come up with any other suggestions as to what other path she could have taken, really, that I think are sensible suggestions anyway.
OK, so, I mean, what is your message to the world about what's happening in Burma? What is it you think that the West, the countries in the West, could or should do? What should other countries be doing in order to try and rectify what's happening and try and secure the release of your mum?
Well, people around the world can start trying to make their governments act meaningfully, and that would involve imposing more sanctions on the military, stopping their access to aviation fuel, maybe imposing sanctions on some of the countries that are working with the military. I don't know, there must be many things that they could be doing to help the situation that they're not.
And why do you think there is... I mean, I said at the start that because of what's happening in Ukraine, maybe attention's fallen away from places like Burma. Is that what you think? Do you think that's why there isn't the focus on Burma that perhaps there should be?
It's partly that. I think even Ukraine is no longer the focus that it once was, and people don't like to be faced with horrors like this all day, every day. They want to be able to get on with their lives and not think about what's going on over the other side of the world.
And what would your existence be like if you're a regular person in Burma? What is your day-to-day existence like?
I'm afraid I couldn't tell you since I'm not there. And it depends who you are and where you are in Burma. Some people are still able to lead fairly normal lives, I believe. Others are running away in the jungle with nothing.
Now, finally, Kim, on a slightly different topic, people might not know, but you engage in a sport which is Burmese boxing, I think it is, which is... it sounds pretty brutal from what I... Tell us about Burmese boxing and make the world aware of what Burmese boxing is.
Burmese boxing's like Thai boxing, but better at the end of the day, because we use headbutts and we don't use gloves. So otherwise, it's pretty much the same.
Well, you're going to have to use some of that fighting to get out there. But look, I love the T-shirt. No one is free until everyone is free. And the reason that is so important is because we have our freedoms and we don't realise how lucky we are, and yet you are fighting for people. I know we've spoke separately, and when you told me, like you say, most people are running away, hiding in the jungle because it is brutal what they go through. They have no money, and most people are in absolute poverty.
The military use fighter jets on innocent villages and then come back and shoot the people trying to reclaim their bodies.
Brutal.
And shoot them as well. Yeah.
Kim, thank you so much for taking the time to come and tell us about the plight of your mum. We obviously wish her well. We wish you well with your campaigning for democracy in Burma, and trust that people don't forget about her plight and what she's basically, in effect, given up in order to fight for democracy in her country. We sort of salute her courage and yours in sticking up for her. So thank you for coming and sharing that story with us.